Good morning, assalamu alaikum. I hope you all had nice coffee and got a lot of plenty of energy. Okay, I will try to make it as short as possible, but this is something that everyone is concerned in the tourism industry. So I would love to actually just go a little bit of detail in some of the areas. So I will just start now. This one is all about the tourist arrivals to the Maldives and how the occupancy has been declining, and also the increase in bed capacity in the Maldives. The biggest complaint from most of us, actually from the hotel side, hoteliers, everyone is complaining that occupancy is declining despite the arrival numbers continue to grow. For example, like this month, we just announced 1 million tourists. That's for the first time, fastest actually time that we have received 1 million, but I think majority of the hotels are suffering with the occupancy. So I will try to give you a little bit of brief through this presentation. So the story began, as you are aware, 3rd October 1972, with the very first tourists arrived to this beautiful island, Kurumba. That's where the story began. That's 53 years ago. And this is how the accommodation those days were, and you know how these things have actually transformed all across. From that, so tourism began in 1972 with just only 2 resorts. That's Kurumba and Bandos, and there were 0 hotels, no guest houses, no safari vessels. And those 2 tourist establishments had 280 operational beds. So that was the very beginning of the tourism industry in the Maldives. And also, just to give you a little bit of update, our very first international tourist flight landed in Huludey Airport. Those days it's called Huludey Airport, was 16th December 1972. And also, this is something, this is actually very touching and also very meaningful thing. I just wanted to remind you, last year during our last summit as well, we were talking quite a lot about this one. Basically, this is the very first tourism law that was drafted and implemented those days. We are talking about 50 plus years ago. The visionary gentlemen from the Mati team, they had decided that tourism must be developed with beautiful examples. So they decided that we should have a maximum height of the rooms, kept at with the tallest tree. That's how it is. And then also the tourism, this is how we have started the destination promotion in the Maldives. So it began in 1972. Mr. Ahmad Nasim and Cypriya Said, they toured Italy and France promoting Maldives. This is the first recorded destination promotional event held by the tourism industry. And then in 1983, Maldives was first advertised at the ITB Tourism Fair in Berlin by Mr. M.U. Manik and Ahmad Mahir Didi. And in 1980, for the first time, the government of the Maldives participated at the ITB. And today, as you all have seen, we have hundreds of participants joining in the ITB these days. And that was the first ITB participants. And 53 years later, we are talking about from 2 establishments and 280 beds. Today we are talking about 1,170 tourist establishments, 61,905 operational beds, and plenty of beds still under development. And that translates into 172 resorts, 15 hotels, 847 guest houses, 148 safari vessels. This is how the accommodation has shifted over the last decade. In 2014, I will refer quite a lot on the 2014. This was one of the best years in recent history in the Maldives, especially after the introduction of a lot of international brands in the Maldives and after tsunami. So in 2014, as you can see, 85% of our operational beds were from the resort segment, and today it is sitting at 68%. So you have seen the growth of guest houses in the local island. So that's how today we are. And also, I will just brief you about some of the major milestones. The very first major milestone was 1 millionth tourist arrival on the 24th November 2013. And the same year, we had destination occupancy at 74% and resort occupancy at 81%. And this is 104 resorts. And second major milestone that we have come across was our 2 millionth tourist. That was on the 26th December 2024 last year. As you can see from the previous year, destination occupancy has declined heavily, and resort occupancy has also declined from 81 to 71, despite that we have achieved 2 million tourists, and again, 172 resorts has come. And our third major milestone is on the 7th of June this year, we celebrate our 1 millionth tourist, the fastest ever recorded in the history of the Maldives. So I would also like to congratulate the team, Mati Tourism. Unfortunately, ministry officials are not here, and also every single person who is working in the tourism industry for achieving this major milestone. So thank you so much. However, the story behind, the story that we all forget to talk about, normally we talk these ones in our meeting rooms, on our monthly meetings, but at national level, we barely see people talking about these subjects. So although we have achieved this 1 million tourists on 7th June, which is the fastest, the destination occupancy from January to May 2024 versus 2025, we had last year 65.2% destination occupancy, and this year is only 63.8% the same time. And the resort occupancy from last year, 78.4% to 72.5%. This is the current landscape. I will also just take you through. So this is how the arrivals has increased, and then also how the occupancy of the destination and to the resorts has changed. If you can see from 2008, this is the year since Tourism Ministry has started publishing their numbers or statistics. So if you look at it in 2008, we are talking about really barely 500,000 tourists, and the occupancies of the resorts were 80+%, and the best year was 2014 with 82%, and after that there has been almost a decline, and if you look at from 2008, 2009 and 10, we had a little bit of decline because of the economic crisis that we went through, but we started to gain again in 2013, and 2014 we had the best year. And then since then, a decade later, we are talking about a decline of almost 10% points in 2014. So obviously, it is one of the biggest worries of the tourism sector, especially when it comes to the private resorts, hotels, guest houses, and safari boats. And this particular one shows how the resort beds and destination beds versus the resorts and destination occupancy has been moving around. If you can see from 2008, from 19,290 beds in the Maldives in 2018, and we are talking about 61,000 now. The occupancy of the destination from 78 to now, it is almost 61. Sorry, I can't see there. 61. So this is where the story is. And then this is resort beds and destination resorts. Sorry, it's the same. And again, from January to May, just wanted to show you a little bit of picture. The whole purpose of this presentation is for us to understand the problem and not to blame on any particular person or institution. We just wanted to understand the problem, and then, of course, we wanted to discuss what we can do to tackle these issues. Obviously, we understand MMPRC is doing really, really amazing work, and tourism industry partners, everyone is doing, but still, the results are unfortunately not translating into beautiful numbers. This is the destination occupancy resorts and also average length of stay. So as you have seen, the very best year in terms of the average length of stay was 2022 with 7.58%. This is purely because of plenty of Russians, Germans, mainly the Europeans who used to stay for longer stays. And still China was not existent this time after pandemic. That's why we had extremely high average length of stay. But the minute the Asia continues to grow and the growth from the Europe side declines or kind of like halt, we see the average length of stay declining, which also translates into lower occupancy or decline in occupancy. So right now we are sitting at, as of now, 6.20 for this year. So this is how the bed nights versus the total arrivals. If you can see, compared to 2024, this is just for the same period, January to May. We are having, compared to last year, although we are experiencing a 7% increase in arrivals, we are experiencing a 5% decline in total number of beds spent in the Maldives. So we all celebrate the number of arrivals, but for us, for a destination like this, I think it is something probably I would not really like to celebrate, purely because from the environmental perspective as well, if you look at, it doesn't really mean anything. And I will also break this subject. We have, when we say 1 million tourists arrive as of 6th June, we have a lot of non-paying tourists as well. I don't know if you all have seen actually this year. On the 17th position is Bangladesh from out of nowhere 4 years ago. They are on the 17th position. Again, do we know if they are really, really true paying guests? Not only about Bangladesh, but even if you look at Sri Lankan numbers are also extremely high. So these numbers not always necessarily tells us the real story, because the pain that we go through, especially the marketing, the finance people, the revenue people, the guys from the resorts, when they go through this pain, the arrival numbers doesn't really mean anything for us. And this is again how this whole thing has been. I mean, again, I don't want to make you all sad and disappointed, but this is just the problem. So from 2014 to 2019, this is how the top these are actually how the occupancies of every single month, how it has been working in the Maldives. As you can see, the low season, normally May and September are the two lowest months. But if you look at from 2014, this was the best year. Even that year, in the low season, the lowest month in June, it just came almost down to 59%, and also it was recorded 40% in the month of June, and this is the worst. It was 2024. Again, this is also showing the same numbers, and this is how the operational bed capacity and average occupancy by atolls. As we all know, the Malé Atoll, the South and North Malé Atoll, generally enjoys higher occupancy because we have a lot of last-minute arrivals, and a lot of these last-minute arrivals are from the Middle East or India or even from the Asia. They prefer to stay closer to Malé. That's why we have this. And then obviously in terms of the inventory as well, Malé area is just booming, while if you look at some of the very far away atolls, Halif, or even actually Formula bases, the occupancies are really, really low. And this is also just an interesting, interesting picture. What I'm trying to show here is we have got 173 resorts in operation, and out of that 173 resorts, just 20 resorts, the highest number of beds, the 20 resorts that has highest number of beds, they accumulate 12% of the total bed capacity. So those 20 resorts are generally enjoying quite high occupancy because they are priced very well. I can just even name actually one of the property that everyone talks about is Siam World, an example, is one of the largest in terms of inventory. Really smart, really innovative. They enjoy generally high occupancy than a lot of other resorts. So what happens is when these 20 resorts go above 70 to 80% annual occupancy, for the remainder of 88%, it's very small number. So some of the resorts would be really, really suffering in here. And then we are talking about only 48 resorts, that is the 28% of total number of resorts covers 28% of the total bed capacity. This is just to give an idea of top 11. The very first top 6 destination has been India, China, Germany, Italy, Russia, and UK. As you can see, India was almost non-existence almost up until 2019, and then this huge boom came from India during the pandemic. And Chinese story, a lot of experienced people like Suresh and the guys, they would know this was an unbelievable growth that we experienced from the China, but unfortunately that did not last, that did not sustain for too long. Since 2014, September, Chinese market has been declining. And as we all know, especially those who have been to China, we know Chinese market, their traveling behavior, for them Maldives is not really something that's very pleasing. However, still we had this much of growth from China was, those days they did not have many countries or many destinations that they could travel without visa. Lot of restrictions. And then in 2014, we also had the Mega Maldives who was doing a lot of direct flights from different Chinese cities. So we saw this one. And then with the unfortunate decline of Mega Maldives, we also experienced the same decline slowly. And slowly we are gaining back. Of course, Chinese market is massive, massive, massive market. Even 0.0001% still would be helpful. But what I want to say is, those days, there was no particular reason, but later we started to seeing Chinese, though, who appreciate the beach, the sun, and of course the great food and accommodations. But initial stage, most of these Chinese who came, they cannot swim, they don't like sun, they were carrying the umbrellas, they look strange for a lot of actually tourists. But because they just came, they wanted to get out of China. And what we didn't realize was we couldn't maintain it because we were not prepared for this market. And then from the other other five, we are having France. If you look at it, an interesting story. Even after 15 years, the numbers still are almost the same. It just doesn't grow. Even from 2008 to 2024, it's just almost 9 to 10% growth. And some of the other markets, USA is actually doing very, very good. As you can see, it has taken top 5th position in 2024. Yeah, and then also I just have forecasted myself again. Maybe you can take a picture of this and maybe we can look back after 5 years and see how accurate or how closer to accurate this one is. So according to my numbers, or through available a lot of resources that even Abdullah actually mentioned in one of his last panel as well, that we are expecting up to 100,000 beds by next 10 years' time. So I have just done the forecast for next 5 years, and I'm assuming with hundreds of plus developments going right now, we are looking at an occupancy of 71% at the resort level, and then 61% at the destination level. And this is only by considering that we are expecting a 6% growth in room nights, and then also around 8 to 9% in terms of arrival and 6% of room nights. However, the first 5 months of the year or the first 4 months of the year is always supposed to be the best 4 months of the year. And the record shows that we are behind last year in terms of room nights. So that means even these numbers might not be possible or feasible unless we do something really magical in there. And also, I know this is something probably not that interesting, but I believe this is something that we also should be talking about. The Maldives has been extremely popular for our resorts and our land values. But if you look at, I just saw this one last week from Facebook, a 200 square foot beachfront land was for sale for 7 million rupiah in a local island. And then also on the other side, that was also from another island. And then if you look at from here, these are the prices that were published by Tourism Ministry, I think 2 years ago. Unfortunately, all those 17 resorts or 17 islands and few lagoons, that they, still I don't think that they got enough investors for this one. But I just wanted to show you an interesting one here. If you look at from local island, in North Malay Atoll, that 2,000 square feet, one which translates into 0.0186 hectares, and the price that I mentioned, 7 million, which is $453 million, and it comes to per hectare from local island 24 million while if you look at from resort in Alif Atoll, it only comes to 882,143 per hectare. So once upon a time, the resort islands were supposed to be the golden geese. Are we just going actually the wrong direction? What kind of signal are we getting? Even with the reduced prices, still we are not getting enough investors. Mr. Rifat, I actually just told him that I would be putting this one on the screen today. Mr. Rifat visited a resort, I think, last week, and this is what he wrote. Today is a special day for me personally. However, what I have witnessed during my recent resort visit is deeply concerning. So he was it's one of the partners who is raising the same concern. And then before actually I come to this one, everything what we are seeing is that the destination is going through a really, really deep troubling time. And as a result, we also see that we had to, for the first time, do this kind of promotions in the UK. Again, not to blame or criticize anyone. Abdullah and his team is doing a fantastic job. In my last 15 years, I have never seen MMPRC team this active, but still the reality is unfortunately still far from, being happiness. And the risk is very important. This is my last actually. So when we are going through this trouble, and if we continue to grow without just achieving healthy occupancy, what we are going through is, from a dream destination, Maldives could soon become a commodity. From a luxury, it can become a commodity. So we will never be able to, in a few years' time, we may unfortunately not be able to differentiate ourselves and be that unique destination that we have been maintaining for the last 53 years. So obviously, it's really worrying. So that's all about this presentation. And our next panelists, we will be discussing about, obviously, things that we can do differently to make these things change. Thank you so much.